Welcome back to Her Rules Radio. I'm your hostess, your life, health, and success mentor in your pockets, in your earbuds. This is our final show for 2019, coming at you at the end of December. And I wanted to wrap up this year, or whenever you're listening to this, I wanted to put a special attention on one of the secret weapons of creative types. You pro-creatives, you wannabe writers, you spiritual entrepreneurs or healers out there, you are bringing your unique strengths and talents to create something new and be in service of others. Well, there is a tool, a strategy, an absolute necessity that the most successful of us always have, and that is community. Now, in my positive psychology studies, I came across a quote from Marty Seligman, one of the granddaddies of positive psych. And, he created what's known as the Perma Model when it comes to positive psychology, which is the study of what helps humans and communities and organizations thrive. It's not about focusing on what's wrong with you. It's focusing on what's right with you. And Seligman created the 5 core elements of psychological well-being that really do help people work toward a life of fulfillment, happiness, and meaning. The first one, it's called the Perma Model, P-E-R-M-A. And the P stands for positive emotion. And this element is perhaps the most obvious connection to happiness, right? Focusing on positive emotions, which is more than just smiling, by the way. It's the ability to remain optimistic and view your past, present, and future from a constructive perspective. Engagement is the E. Activities that meet our need for engagement really flood our bodies with positive neurotransmitters and hormones that elevate your sense of well-being. So, being engaged helps you feel present and helps you synthesize your activities and actions where you can find calm and focus and joy. Then we've got the M in the Perma Model. That's meaning. Having an answer as to why are we here on this earth. It's really a key ingredient that a lot of us pro-creatives and creative leaders spend a lot of time and energy on. What's our meaning? And for many, religion and spirituality provides that meaning. But for a lot of us driven creatives and entrepreneurs, it's about something slightly different. Then there's accomplishments, having goals and ambition in life that help us achieve things that can give us that sense of like a job well done. But let's go back to the R in the Perma Model, relationships. Relationships and social connections are crucial to meaningful, satisfying lives where we are thriving. I think Marty Seligman said positive psychology can be summed up in 3 words: other people matter. And, I certainly had this tendency, which I know a lot of us in the West have this bias of individuality where, we are each in charge. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You have to be the one who does it all. This is not realistic, and it makes us crazy. And we humans are hyper-social creatures, and we are hardwired to bond and to depend on and interact with other humans. So this basic need for healthy relationships and community, it is biological and it is wired into us. And some of us, if we're the more type A, superwoman-driven types, have some programming to redo, right? We thrive in connection with others where we can really exchange love and be intimate and vulnerable. And, if you don't have that or didn't have that with your family of origin, or you didn't feel connected to the people you went to school with, and if you're currently doing work in a place where you don't feel love, and connection, then it's going to be tough to get through difficult times. So really, strong relationships provide the support we need in difficult times that require resilience. And that is the center point for this whole show, this conversation about creative communities. So diving back into my positive psych workbooks and such led me to think about a lot of the kinds of communities we need to achieve our goals and growth, both professionally and personally. And I read a lot. I read a lot by writers and artists and entrepreneurs. And I keep seeing these little hits, these little stories on this creative community idea from a lot of different very successful people. Most recently, in her hilarious and illuminating book on thriving as a working actor, Jenna Fischer preaches be a joiner. And I could not agree more. In her first years struggling to get acting gigs in Hollywood before she became famous as Pam on the American version of The Office, Jenna Fischer worked lots of day jobs and tried to get auditions while her roommate was taking a different route to success in Hollywood. Her roommate joined a theater company and volunteered for behind the scenes work in all kinds of different ways in different groups. And, while Jenna admits she was at home watching a lot of movies, her roommate was always busy building community, learning how the business worked, making connections, and creating side projects with other actors. And after she got really lonely and felt super isolated, Jenna realized she needed to join in. And she started volunteering and began making community and connections. She credits these friendships and community with supporting her and keeping her going on the long, tough road to success. I think it was 8 or 9 years before she landed the role on The Office. In my own career, it's the friends and connections that I've made through coaching programs, conferences, retreats, and classes and courses that have given me so much strength and inspiration to keep going during hard times when I didn't believe in myself or when I was trying something new and risky. It is our community and our relationships and our friendships that really help us feel strong enough and supported to do tough things. I don't know if you know who Laurie Anderson is, a famous performance artist, spoken word artist. Great quote from her. You think you're alone and thought this up yourself, and you're not. You're part of an interactive web of 20th century thought. That is, to me, incredibly lovely because it's just less lonely. And she's so right. We may do a lot of our work by ourselves in a room, at a computer, thinking in our own heads. But the truth is that we are connected to the people around us. They influence us, and what we read and see and listen to, it all filters into us. So we're not really ever doing anything alone. Now, there is a tendency for some of us, pointing at myself here, where we try to be the solo superwoman. So being a creative entrepreneur, or as I call it, the Creatrix leader, can be a deeply meaningful, healing, spiritual, satisfying way to make a living and a life. At its best, we do it in the company of others with a balance of alone time. And there are a few instances of creative leaders and creative entrepreneurs who do it all alone, create great work, and have the inner fortitude to manage the mental and emotional challenges that come along with it all. But honestly, I don't know any of them personally. Out of all of the long-time successful creative entrepreneurs I know, I see a common trait. We continue to seek out community, get support, ask for help. We set aside time to go away together, create retreats together, create coaching groups together, have regular phone calls together, brainstorming strategies, are on text threads. We make space for creating our ideas into reality. And we make space and time to commit to showing up for and with each other. We put money and time and resources towards this work and building community because we know it serves us and it serves all of us. So it serves us individually and it serves the collective. It serves the group. So when you start to become a part of a creative community or join a mentorship, I'm going to talk about mine in a moment, you begin to see if it's a stated intention. Now, this is a huge factor in all of the groups that I lead, where we are there to focus on supporting everyone with the idea that rising tides lift all boats, that it's not about being in competition, even if we happen to overlap in different ways of how we work or who our client base may be. It's not about that. We've all gotten beyond the point where we're worried about like, oh, they're going to take my clients, or, oh, what if they do the same kind of work that I do? No, it's not about that. There is enough for everyone. And we have to commit our full selves to the process, to the mindsets again and again and again. So creative leaders, aka Creatrix leaders, aka creative entrepreneurs, do require community. We need the stimulating conversations about topics that most of our family and friends just don't get. The questions, experiences, and heartfelt support of peer creatrixes are like nourishment and fuel. Professional writers work with editors, co-writers, or join critique or coaching groups where they come together to share and read their work. They also get accountability that way and meet with like-minded and similar-souled people who understand what they're trying to do. Our coaching and critique groups help us to improve our work. They help us see things that could be made better or richer. Now, it's not always easy to first get critiqued, but if you're in the right group, and I'll go into, this is actually a really important point, like being in a collaborative group where you're bringing your work and having people see it and offer feedback, maybe before you launch it or try to sell it. It helps you practice your boundaries and your independence, because you might get, 5 pieces of feedback from people, and 3 of them you agree are ways that you could improve or change your work. And 2 of them, you know what? I don't agree, and I'm not going to take that piece, and it's okay. It doesn't have to be personal, but the process really helps us practice our boundaries, our self-knowing, and our independence, even as we're being more connected and collaborative. My own community of support is made up of writers, other coaches, artists, entrepreneurs, actors, filmmakers, lawyers, and more. Actually, I've just joined a small group of women who we are forming our own mastermind community for 2020. So I definitely walk my talk. I cannot imagine where I would be without the stimulating conversations, questions, challenges, and loving support of these fellow creators and risk takers. Another book I wanted to mention by the brilliant event facilitator Priya Parker. She's the author of The Art of Gathering. She credits her creative community with keeping her inspired, focused, and finding her authentic voice. Her quote, "We figure out not only who we are, but who we could be through our gatherings. Birds of a feather flock together, but we have a choice of who we want our birds to be." So you don't need to be a painter or novelist or poet to have a creative community. Women in my past mentorship groups have included a trauma-informed PhD candidate who is working as a social worker who's launching a new website and a retreat series, a copywriter working on a novel and a card deck and creating independent coaching programs, a surgeon working on her website and planning a book launch while she built an authentic social media following, an established coach creating a new kind of coaching and retreats, a business consultant ready to launch her online presence while nurturing her local contact and network in her hometown, a financial coach with a 7-figure resale business who finally got back into painting and launched her speaking series, a top saleswoman in a tech company who aimed for and achieved a massive promotion and is now planning to hike the Himalayas with friends. And the list just goes on and on. The women that I've had the honor to work with as their creative leadership coach and the guide and mentor for our groups, they realized that working with a coach in a small community was what they needed to leap over their previous limiting beliefs. Because when you get to know people and you let them know you can't hide behind your excuses anymore. And even when you have amazing skills, a plan, and commit to showing up to your work every day, it can take time, right? Success doesn't happen overnight. And the community you find in mentorship groups or creative groups are there to lend support and feedback, listen to you, hold you when you're feeling down, and cheer you on as you bust through limiting beliefs. The women you meet in these groups will be so inspirational. They'll help you get through the struggle and the doubt. And by the way, you will inspire them to get through their hard times too. And yet, it can feel scary to join in. There are some perceived challenges that we have to address in joining any group or community. We face these additional fears. Number one, it's scary to be seen. When we allow people to truly know us as we share our goals, vision, and challenges, we fear that they won't like us. And we might experience perfectionism and try to present a false image of what's really happening under the hood. We might have old mean girl triggers and worrying that we'll be gossiped about and cast out like we were in our younger years. And that's why in the group I'm going to talk about in a minute, the Creatrix 2020, we specifically set the intention in aiming to support each other, not to compete with each other. And social anxiety, a whole host of physical sensations and worries that make it hard to relax and be present with others. So it can be scary to be seen. The next is that we worry about picking the wrong group. That's why it's important to meet with or talk with the organizer of the group or the coach to ask some questions and get a real sense of what their style is, what the group will be like, and really consider it a two-way interview when you're both getting a sense of each other. An experienced mentor will curate the group for a balance of personalities and ensure the group's mission is a fit for the individuals. And finally, one of the big concerns I see a lot is the concern about the time commitment. We're all busy. And the secret of these groups is that the few hours you'll give to the group will help you get so clear and focused. You will spend less time on stuff that doesn't matter and have more time to use for what does matter. In my experience, mentorship groups really help expand your capacity for your work as you feel more energized, inspired, and clear about what you're doing, and you waste less energy to loneliness and worry and doubt and overthinking. And one of the truths is that human happiness lies in doing well what we are uniquely suited for. And the more you get to use your strengths to further the causes that you believe in, the better and stronger you feel. And the best ways that I have found to handle these fears is to talk with people in a group, or I have applied and worked with many coaches who create communities like my upcoming Creatrix 2020 mentorship. asking questions, feeling into the possibilities, and really using the energetic base and the courage that I get from these groups for growth, for taking risks, for staying committed, for staying accountable. Now, another piece for any creative community, or considering whether you're going to join one or not, or which one to join, is balancing our introvert with our desire to connect and be involved. Another great book is Priscilla Long's Handbook for Creators, Minding the Muse. And she describes the stages of a creative's work, which I think really parallels a successful creative entrepreneur's path. The first stage is the making stage. This is where you're experimenting, putting your fingers on the keyboard or pen to paper, you're building stuff. It's usually solitary, though I definitely do in-person co-creation, planning, deep dives, and retreats, and both with individuals and groups. Then there's the second stage, the refining stage. When you bring in an editor or share your work or ideas with a group, you add, subtract, prune. You invite your peers to take a look and put in their 2 cents. And then there's the purveying stage. That's where you launch your program, you publish your website or podcast, you enter a competition, you open up your sales page, you send your book proposal to agents. This is when having your peer group behind you is especially helpful. With trusted friends at your back, you're finally brave enough to take this step, which you may have been putting off for years. One of my favorite writers of all time is Stephen King. His book on writing is his memoir about his writing process. It's fabulous. One of his quotes is that writing is a lonely job. Having someone who believes in you makes a lot of difference. I really find that heartening and makes me feel hopeful when someone like Stephen King, one of the most successful writers of all time, admits that writing, being a creative entrepreneur, it can be lonely. And having someone who believes in you, someone you can go to regularly, makes a lot of difference. I've always found this path to be a dance between alone time, group connection time, and going public time. And the first few times you do this dance, it feels weird and uncoordinated, and that's okay. You get better the more you do it. In the end, creating your work with your unique voice and vision isn't just about making money. Although one of my passions is that we Creatrix women get paid well. In the end, it's more so about enriching the lives of those who will be touched and served by your work, and enriching your life as well. So, some questions, finally, to consider as you get ready to find your creative community. Number 1, do you have adequate community? Are your people in your life stimulating your work, your courage, your vision? 2, do you put yourself out there? Have you joined a group and paid attention to others' work? 3, do you contribute? Have you engaged with other driven creatives and showed up for them in real time, which generates energy for you and the collective? So these are some questions to think about, and I want to invite you. Applications are now just open for the Creatrix 2020 Mentorship Group, which begins January 24th, 2020. So many details. We'll be talking about it for the next month as we head into January 2020. You can go over to herrulesradio.com and check out the work page, or you can go to alexandrajamieson.com/Creatrix, Creatrix. I'll be talking about it for the next few weeks. And I hope this was inspiring, supportive, heartening. I hope it gave you great questions to think about. And I hope you have a beautiful end to your year, or just your week if you're listening to this later on in time. Take good care. We'll see you back here soon. Mwah.